In the UK, around 1 in 4 people will experience mental health issues at some point in their life. Today's episode is about that connection between rider and mental health. So, welcome back to Talk and Tales. Before we get into today's conversation, here's something worth thinking about. In the UK, around 1 in 4 people will experience mental health issues at some point in their life. And for many riders, the motorbike is one of the few places where the noise in their head genuinely quietens down. Riding demands focus, you're present, you're aware, and a lot of us, it becomes a kind of moving motivation on the road. Today's episode is about that connection between rider and mental health, but also about responsibility, knowing when a ride will help and when it's better to stay at home and take those helmet and leathers off. I'm joined today by Paul from Mental Health Motorbike, a charity that brings support directly to the riders, the community and shared rides. Let's get into it. Yeah, welcome Paul to Talks and Tales. It's going to be a good discussion, this one. So for anyone listening who hasn't heard of Mental Health Motorbike before, can you explain what the charity is and why it was created?
Yeah, thanks for inviting us to this podcast, John. It's really good to be here. So, Mental Health Motorbike is a free national support service, mental health support service for the motorbike community. So, we tend to work primarily with bikers, but those on trikes, scooters, anybody that's on two wheels and relates to motorbikes, we are there to offer free mental health guidance and support.
Yeah, that's good to be fair, because I bumped into you guys at the Motorcycle Live event in November and had a really good chat with some of your guys on there, and it's really, really interesting because, in all fairness, I think men of kind of our age, maybe even a bit younger, are quite susceptible or quite prone to kind of mental health issues, and I think it's something that we don't generally talk about, do we?
It's an interesting one. I think men by their DNA, we're just not very programmed to open up and admit that we're not coping.
Yeah.
But what happens as a result of that? Statistics show that men, 3 out of 4 suicides are going to be men. We've got a problem in this country with increased suicides. So, the aim of our charity really is to stop people getting to that stage.
Yeah.
So we put a lot of support into people and we take support directly to where they are. And yeah, we've been, as you can imagine, we've been very, very busy as a charity over the last few years.
Yeah.
But, that is a sad sign, but it's also a really important service that we're offering.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to see the support out there, to be fair. So yeah, motorbike, mental health motorbike often talks about bringing the support to the rider rather than expecting people to seek help. What does it actually look like in practice? Do you set up meets or?
Yeah, I mean, we generally get invited. So to take this year, for example, we've done over 400 face-to-face events
Wow.
and presentations. So some weekends over the summer, we're doing 15 events, so we've got teams of people across England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. They're all volunteers. They're working really, really hard.
Yeah.
The backbone of the charity is to train as many people in mental health first aid. And that's a 15-hour course that will give you enough of an understanding to put support in place. And you don't suddenly become a doctor or a nurse overnight. What you become is like a first responder that can help that person get to a doctor, get to a hospital. And that's the thing. It's about if we can sit and talk on a sort of serious level with people, that could be the difference between them sort of spiraling into poor mental health and crisis.
Yeah.
And that's what we aim to do. So 400 events. We generally get invited by bike organisations and big events.
Yeah.
And we sort of piggyback on the back of their events. We're not organising 400 events.
Yeah.
But what we also do, we've got an online peer support group which runs 24 hours a day. We've got a team of 14 that keeps that group really safe. So we say to anybody that joins that group, you're not going to be ignored, you're not going to be laughed at, and you're not going to be judged. A
Yeah.
lot of poor mental health is through people making bad judgment calls or something going wrong in their lives. It could be something that's completely out of their sort of control. It could be a bereavement or a relationship breakdown or a
Yeah.
changing job circumstances.
It's so complex, isn't it? It's so complex.
But then there's obviously a lot of the mental health conditions that people, that doctors and psychologists have diagnosed. You could be suffering with neurodiversity, you could be suffering with, autism and ADHD. And, a lot of people we're working with find diagnoses later on in life.
Mm.
So, all the way through school years, they felt different. They felt as though I don't fit in. And a lot of people gravitate to motorbikes because it is quite solitary. But the beauty for us is once people stop that motorbike, they meet other bikers and they get chatting away about motorbikes.
Yeah.
So this becomes a really powerful tool in facilitating those discussions. We use the bikes to break the ice basically and get people talking about. So how are you today? Then what's going on for you?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
very often with a lot of the events now, because we advertise on social media quite heavily where we are, there's calendars on the website. People know how to find us now.
Yeah.
So when I remember 5 years ago when I first started, we could get away with an event with 2 people, volunteers
Yeah.
there. Some events we're having 13 volunteers because we
Wow.
know we're going to be working all day long.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't imagine people come to a motorbike event because they need help.
Yeah.
But because we make it so discreet and so easy to access, people will come and talk to us.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you're right. To be fair, I mean, yeah, people don't. People tend to go to some events, don't they, to almost get away from the potential daily grind or whatnot to kind of have that release, and then obviously having that conversation with a fellow biker helps to open up and break that ice. I do think though. I think one thing that's really important and it's quite interesting is that for me personally, the motorbike community is so unique because you could turn up to an event. It could be just a local cafe. It could be the motorcycle live. It could be anything. And you both turn up on a motorbike. You both live hundreds of miles apart, but you'll still sit there next to each other, having a coffee, having a chat. And it's so it's mind blowing sometimes. Just how yeah
Beauty of bikes, they're a really good leveler in so many things, in so many respects. I know I've been a biker for 40 odd years, and I still get excited when I pull up in a car park and look around and see, there's a group of bikes over there. And you see sort of people stood around them.
yeah
Because I know before you've even got your helmet off, you're chatting away to these guys, talking backs to each other.
yeah
And that's really, really important because a lot of mental health struggles for men is because they don't know how to talk, they
Mm,
don't know who to talk to. So we're sort of thinking if we can break that ice a little bit and make it that bit easier,
yeah
by first of all taking the support to where people hang out, and yeah, offering support online that's provided by other bikers. There's always a common ground. You're never going to feel sort of uncomfortable sort of chatting because you're amongst fellow bikers.
yeah.
Right. I always say to people when I first meet a non-biker, describe what a biker is. What's your definition? It's always that middle-aged bloke on a Harley Davidson with the leathers on, driving down Route 66. I think that is so far from what a biker is these days. You've got so many young riders rocking bikes, so many women on bikes
Yeah,
now, LGBT groups, different cultural groups, the Muslim riders, the Sikh riders.
yeah.
There's so many people.
So diverse.
You got the Christian bike. There's such a diverse group. What's great, we have the privilege of crossing over all of these groups,
Yeah,
so we get to see all of them. Whether it's trial riders, whether it's sports, weekend sort of racing community, we tend to dip into all of these groups. So a lot of bikers tend to sort of gravitate to the type of biking that they enjoy, whether it be racing, whether it be sort of off road. But yeah, I'll just cut the leisure weekend riding. But
yeah.
as I say, we cross over and it's so exciting.
I know it is. To be fair, I mean, a lot of riders that I talk to as well, um, say that being on a bike is one of the only times they get the kind of quiet headspace as well. From your experience, then, what is it about riding that helps people focus on that present moment?
We've talked about this a lot. A lot of hours have gone into talking about this, and we very often have discussions with doctors and nurses because we always get blamed for sending catastrophic injuries to the A&E,
Yeah.
and generally when a biker comes off a bike, it's not going to be a pretty sight. It's
No.
if you've got the gear on, you might stand a bit of protection. But generally, I mean, the accidents are probably worse than they're going to be in a car because
Yeah.
you haven't got that protection around you.
Yeah.
But what we also say to the NHS is just think about, how much, there's something like 1.5 million insurance policies for bikers out there.
Right.
And I would sort of say a massive percentage of those people are out on their bikes because it really helps with their headspace. There's something, when you're on a motorbike, you're so hyper focused, you can't think about anything else.
No.
You're in the moment, you're avoiding trees, you're avoiding cars, you're avoiding people walking out in front of you. But then you've got the roadcraft, you've got to keep this thing that's on two wheels upright.
Yeah.
So there's so much that's going on in your brains that it's releasing chemicals in a way, and then it's that exhilaration. You've got the speed, the acceleration, the roadcraft navigating bends efficiently, and I think something's going on in your head that really sort of puts you into a. I always sort of say it's like a zen-like sort of state of mind.
Yeah. I always think it's like meditation.
Yeah, it's very mindful. You're in the here and now. You're not thinking about problems tomorrow or yesterday. You're very, very focused. And my wife often says to me, "Go for an hour on your bike."
Yeah.
She's like a bear with a sore head at the moment. Just you'll come back a little bit more chilled out.
Yeah.
And it's right. I can have 40 minutes on my bike and have a good ride and just be a different person when I get off it.
Yeah.
But it obviously comes with risk. And that's what we're counterbalancing with the NHS. We are. So a big part of our charity is making sure that people don't get on the bikes if their headspace is such a bad place.
Yeah.
It's also thinking through, get yourself some qualification. I mean, I passed my test sort of mid 80s, about 86, 87.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of thinking, when I did my test there, literally I did a bit of off-road stuff, show that I could keep the bike upright. But then the test itself was, you pulled up at the car driving centre, and there was a loop that you did round. You did 4 loops of the driving centre. The guy wasn't even following you. He stood on the side of the road making notes. And I passed my test, and yeah. And he said to me, he said, you're going to do emergency stop, and I'm going to walk out in front of you. If you hit me, you failed. Don't hit me. That's what he said to me. It was so funny. I didn't hit him. I passed my test, and that was, as far as practical training, that's all I needed to do.
Yeah.
I'm now driving 200-mile-an-hour motorbikes, 0 to 60 speeds of 3 seconds. And you sort of think, people need to be taught how to handle that better.
Yeah.
Not just some guy sort of walking out and doing an emergency stop. So, we actively encourage a strong relationship with the road safety partnerships, the advanced driving schools like IAM Road Smart and ROSPA.
Yeah, that's something on my hit list for next year.
John, I do it really. Yeah. I mean, I'd started doing it, and I'm very, very close to doing, getting the advanced driving now, and I've learned so much more. You start to unpick all those bad habits.
Yeah.
And I'd seriously recommend. I find it really interesting because you can't break the speed limits now without getting cameras flashing you.
Yeah.
And part of me feels as though it becomes like a new challenge, to ride safely and really appreciate what's happening around you and making sure when you hit a corner you're in the right sort of gear and the right position.
Yeah.
Love it. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
Riding.
I think it's definitely on my hit list for next year. I mean, I've been riding now 20 years, but I did a lot of riding before I did my full test. So I actually was one of the few that did the 2 different parts, the mod 1 and mod 2. And yeah, it's a bit more complex now than just riding around a car park. But yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting. I think the one thing that's really
a lot more expensive.
It's a lot.
Get a full license now. It's not a cheap process.
No, it's not at all. And then if you fail one of your mods, then you've already booked mod 2, and you failed mod 1, you're now going to rebook both. So you're a bit scuppered. I think I think we touched on this when we briefly spoke before we started the podcast. Was talking about how we need to make sure that we're not riding when we're angry, or really really upset over something. And I think there's a fine line, isn't there, between going out to clear your head or going out because you knocked off at something. And I think that's really crucial to kind of point home to some of the listeners, is that we're not promoting people going out there and riding just because they've had an argument with the missus or the kids. They want to be going out there just to, once they've calmed down, then go for a ride and go, right, I'm going to clear my head. But yeah, it's been a huge part of my life, to be fair, as motorbikes and mental health, if you like. Because I mean, we all go through stresses and strains through life, and I think it'd be silly to say that we don't. You know what I mean? And I found it's a huge help for me, especially when I started very early on. I think my parents had got divorced, so I was riding over to from Bradford to Manchester on a daily basis on my little moped, and that provided that real headspace for me, before I then ended up going into school, because otherwise I'd have gone into school a bit knocked off. So yeah, I found out very early on that actually this is really helpful for mental health and headspace. I think that's a huge part of it, I think.
It is. I mean, it's really interesting. After 40 years of riding a bike, I go through, like, when I know that I'm taking the bike out, I go through this like real sort of connection. I start to think about what I'm wearing. I sort of think about the bike itself. And I start to acknowledge that this is a really dangerous bit of kit to be taken out,
Yeah.
particularly when the roads are so busy now, and weather patterns seem to be all over the place. And I still sort of go through a process of really acknowledging that this could really be dangerous if I'm not on my A game.
Yeah.
But I would always encourage anybody that's thinking about taking a bike out just to go through that preparation. It's almost like a mental checklist. If you go to our website under the project section, we've actually created a checklist with the IAM Road Smart team,
Right.
and it gets you to look at your mental health. And it's simple things like, if you're on medication, have you taken that medication?
Yeah.
If you've had a session the night before, have you really given yourself at least 12 hours gap between the last drink that you had?
Yeah.
It's about sort of making not only sure your bike's safe, it's making sure you're safe. So, have you eaten some food? Are you hydrated? Because if it's red hot outside and you're spending 2 hours on a bike, you're going to get dehydrated. You're going to be
Yeah.
affected by that. So it all interlinks, because if you make stupid mistakes because you're not right to be riding that bike, you're going to be using our services because you've been, sort of life-changing injuries. And
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. We want to be working with the road safety partnerships and the advanced driving schools and the police to try and get people to think about the implications of bad decisions, really.
Yeah. And to be fair, I've done it a couple of times when I've gone for a ride, and then I'll get about 5-10 minutes in and I'll go, you know what? My headspace isn't right. I'm not focusing. I've missed a cat run across, just something as simple as a cat running across the road. I think, you know what? This isn't for me today. Let's turn around and go back home. Um,
Turn around, take it home, and take the gear off, and then try again. You might sometimes put the gear back on, but you're starting to focus on the actual ride,
yeah.
because it's stupid things. If you're not on your A game, you're going to make a mistake. It's, so it's really important. It's making sure that physically you're okay, but also mentally that you're okay before you get on that bike.
Obviously, I've seen quite a few things about mental first aid, and to be fair, I don't think it's just specific to the motorbike industry. I think the construction industry has taken that on board as well. Um, is Why is it so important to have mental first aid? Why is it important to kind of give people those skills to help people, initially?
When so a bit of background about the charity. I lost a friend to suicide in 2019. And when I went to his funeral, I made a promise that we would do something to try and stop other families going through this heartache of a suicide. It devastates whole communities.
Mm,
So this is where sort of motorbikes was chosen as the response to losing Dale Catherine, my friend. And yeah, I wasn't sure how best to do it. So a friend of mine, Andy Elwood, he was a trainer, and he ran something called Mental Health First Aid. And he and I was chatting about it. We thought this would be great for bikers.
mm,
It's a 15-hour course, and it runs. You can either do it as a 2-day course, or you do it as a full session online course. And it's enough of an understanding. As I say, it's 15 hours, so you're spending a lot of time looking at the issue.
yeah,
But you look at all the different mental health conditions, all the different things that might cause a mental health crisis. But you also look at a toolkit. So if you're supporting a friend or a family member or a colleague, what do you do with them if they're in a bit of a mess because of their mental health? But I think also one of the most important things, it looks at you as a person. What support do you need? And is your headspace in a good place to be looking after somebody else?
yeah,
And that's the first question you've got to ask yourself, because you don't really want to be dealing with other people's problems if yours is so extreme, and you end up getting triggered yourself by
yeah,
listening to other people. So the course was so rounded and so full. I thought this would work for bikers. So when we first started, the COVID pandemic arrived. So we took it online and we said, right, we're going to train as many bikers as possible during the pandemic. And I think we reached about 150 bikers. And we started to see some really interesting things happening, like a ripple effect, and people telling us stories of how they were using it during the pandemic.
mm,
So they were using it with work colleagues and family members and biker friends. And you suddenly thought, this was really good. This is something happening here. And what we set out from day one was to reduce the number of people ending their lives by suicide. That was the aim of the charity. But we had a lot of objectives that would allow us to meet that aim. And it was really, really interesting that the training was really helping us
yeah,
start to engage with the subject. So we thought, if we can train 150 during a pandemic, we're going to aim for 1,000.
yeah.
And as we speak now, we're just over 1,100 bikers trained in mental health first aid.
Wow.
And they become the backbone of our charity. They become our volunteer workforce. They're all volunteers. They come out, they work weekends, do all these events. We do the online stuff. We do lots and lots of presentations. The idea is, if we create a big enough network, there will always be somebody for you to go out and talk to.
Yeah.
That's the basis of mental health first aid. It's such a brilliant course.
Obviously, you've got mental. Oh my god, mental health first aid people around the country. How does just a random person come in, or a random motorbiker come in and connect with those individual people? Is there a way of doing that?
As I say, most bikers will see us at an event at some
Right.
point. We're at most events. There's a lot of events happening, and we tend to be. A lot of people see the logo now and relate. They know who we are, so we're putting stuff out constantly on social media. So we are free. We don't charge for the services, and it's really interesting. All of our funding comes through bike groups, people that we've supported.
Yeah.
So we are a self-financing company that doesn't have a lot of grants from the government or anything, and it just shows how awesome the motorbike community is, because they look after us.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is providing a really vital service, for bikers that don't necessarily know how to reach the doctor. What we will do is work with them through that mental health first aid training. We'll sit down and we'll just listen to what they're dealing with. And then the next step is for us to start working. Who is your support network around you? Do you have family members? Do you have
Mm.
good work colleagues? Do you have friends? And what we'll try and do is look at the role that those people play in supporting you through this struggle. But then we'll sort of say, right, what has worked for you in the past? Have you spoken to a doctor? Have you tried alternative therapies like mindfulness? Have you tried? There's lots of other things. Have you looked at the 5 ways to wellbeing that gets you thinking about using the outdoors and connecting more with other people? And our team are very good at sort of coming up with an action plan that we can then follow up with that person. So we're checking whether they've arranged that doctor's appointment. And very often that's all that's needed. It's just
I,
that
s-
level of support to be there for that person.
I suppose the biggest challenge, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the biggest challenges you may face is getting probably especially blokes, and we touched on this earlier, to open up and have that initial conversation. I think that's probably your biggest challenge, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a challenging year for me because it's taken 5 years to build the charity to the state that it's at now, and that's a national charity. We are probably the biggest motorbike charity out there offering mental health support. And after 5 years, I've been living and breathing this
Yeah.
24/7. And I got to July, and I was really struggling. I was burnt out. I was completely in a mess, really. But I didn't recognise that until I stopped. So I took some time away from the charity. I took 3 months out, and I decided I needed to go speak to a doctor.
Mm.
It was using the friends that I'd made in the charity and using my family. I decided I was going to write it down. So on our website, there's something called Oxo's blog. So you can see a very frank, sort of me talking about my experiences of navigating the doctors, and it was really hard. I think I walked past that front door of the doctors 6 times before I had the strength to walk through it.
Yeah.
By the time I walked through it, I wasn't in the best of places because I'd left it too long.
Yeah.
And people were saying, just do it, just get out. So I managed to negotiate the doctors and get a single doctor that was seeing me all the time, and we got an action plan of support put in place, and that's really helped me move forward. So I'm now coming back to the charity with less responsibility. That's been shared out amongst the volunteers and the trustees,
Yeah.
where I can focus on what my skill set is now rather than trying to do everything. So it's been an interesting summer, but just being able to talk openly and frankly. I thought, if I can't do it, how can I expect other people to do it?
Yeah.
So if people want to read my story, it's actually on the website, mhmotorbike.com, under Oxo's blog. And you'll see me sort of talking about, stress containers and how do you know if your stress container's full. It also talks about, the difficult summer that I've had this year. And I was sort of thinking, it's taken me having to step back and switch off from the thing that's causing me so much anxiety and stress, and before realizing that I'd completely burnt myself out. And
So,
it's really interesting, burnout. Burnout's a weird thing,
mm,
but you can recover back from it and with the right support.
what was that tipping point then for you then, Paul? If you don't mind sharing it with us, what was that tipping point between you
Yeah.
going, actually, I need to do it? Was it a conversation with someone, or was it you just having time with your own thoughts?
No, I've done a lot of events this year, and some of the weekend events we tend to be given vehicles. So I ended up sleeping in the back of this vehicle, and it was my birthday weekend. So it was the hottest day of the year. I was completely dehydrated. I slept in the back of a van, and I woke up in the morning thinking, "What? I'm 56 years old. What am I doing? I'm sleeping in the back of a van." I'm completely feel awful because I'm dehydrated and not eating and drinking properly.
Yeah.
And I'd actually woken up on one day and fallen out of love with the charity that I'd invested so much time.
Yeah.
And I thought there's something not right, because why would that happen?
Mm.
I've lived and breathed this charity. I know how much it's doing, how much good it's doing, and how many good people. And to say that I've just fallen out of love with it completely, I didn't want anything to do with. I knew I had to stop, and that was my tipping point. It was an event, dehydrated, back of the van, thinking, "What am I doing sleeping in the back of a van? Should be in a hotel, 5-star hotel somewhere." I was like questioning all my life choices, and
Yeah.
and the other thing was I, my daughters had planned a birthday surprise that weekend,
Yeah.
and I'd chosen not. I didn't let them know in enough time, that I was working. I've got an event. They thought I'd take the time off, and it was only because there was nobody else to do this event that I jumped in, not expecting the family to avoid. So they didn't kick off. They didn't cause a fuss, but they packed me a little birthday treat box, and in that was a cake. And I remember it having a candle in there, and I opened it and found it. I thought, I've got nobody to share this with. All my family are off somewhere else,
Yeah.
and it was. I'm sort of thinking I'm sat here on my own, not wanting to be at this event, and I want to be with my family. And that it was all sort of to implode on top of me then.
Yeah.
And that was the tipping point. Really, it was just a number of little things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had a bit of a similar experience a couple of years ago. I lost a friend to a motorbike accident, and it was at the time we had kids as well. We just had yeah, we had he was about 2 years old at the time, and I think it brought it home that I was struggling. I was struggling with almost like a sense of like a loss of identity, because I had one hand bikes were giving me everything, but on the other hand, they were kind of causing pain at the same time. And obviously, quite rightly, my wife was saying, like, you need to give the bikes up. Come on, we've got kids. And I couldn't do it because it had been such a huge part of my life for well over like, a couple of decades. And I thought to myself, do you know what? Once I've sorted my head out a little bit, I'm going to jump on that bike and I'm going to disappear to Scotland, and I'm going to just do a week of just riding on my own head, and just enjoy it and just live in that moment. And it was good because it helped me kind of helped me kind of grieve for my friend properly without kind of people being around, and also just having that clarity of actually look at what we've got. We've got the open road, we've got freedom, we've got family, we've got friends. There's so much in our lives that we need to be grateful for, even though it might look extremely dark at that moment in time. We do have a lot to be grateful for, and yeah, that was the biggest thing for me anyway.
It is, and loss. I think bikes can be really helpful, because they do take you to places that cars can't necessarily get to. You can find those like tight country, roads, and you should just experience things very differently. So I've got a flip helmet, and sometimes when I'm driving slow, you just put the flip up, and it's just that the sense, and you feel the wind. And I've always said some of the best riding for me is when it's like spitting with rain, and you're warm enough, but the rain's hitting you in the face. It's like pinpricks on your face,
Yeah,
and you sort of think, where would I rather be now? In a car with the heating on, or just in this? And it's just like your face is getting massaged by all these little rain spots, and I absolutely love that because I
yeah,
just think it makes you feel alive.
it does.
Yeah,
I always like it, not quite when it's raining. I don't mind rain, but I like that bit just before it rains. So you ride and you feel the air change. It gets cooler. It gets damper, and I'm like, oh, you can
feel
feel,
it, can't you?
yeah, exactly. And you look around and thinking, all right, is it in front of me or is it kind of behind me? And you're like, all right, it's in front of me.
Stayed up a little bit, and it chases after me. And it's funny. I mean, I hated rain on any sports bike that I ever had. I used to hate rain.
Mm,
I'm on a BMW GS Adventure now.
yep,
These are like tanks, and I've got the right tyres on it. They're like a hybrid wet, and I've done a lot of wet weather riding. So I bought a key heated jacket.
yep,
You plug that into your bike, and as long as you toast it on a bike, you
yep,
can ride, and you've got the waterproofs on. You can ride that bike forever. Even in the rain. I remember driving down from Thunder in the Glens up in Scotland. It was Aviemore, the Harley Davidson event.
yep,
I remember driving down from that, and the drive up there was beautiful weather, blue sky. Couldn't have been any more perfect.
yep.
But it changed. I think it was the Monday morning, or might have been the Sunday when I just sort of set off. The weather had completely turned into one of these storms. It even had a name. It was uncomfortable. And right from the start, it was hammering it down. The wind was howling. It took me 11 hours to get home.
Oh God.
I thought, never again. I'm never getting on a bike in wet weather. And about 2 weeks later, I was thinking that was actually quite good.
Yeah.
Your bike's at 45 degrees driving down the motorway because the wind was so strong, gusty turn.
Now your underpants are dry. Now your underpants are dry. You're thinking it's all right.
to the service station, just hugging the radiator. And I was so tired. I was running out and I was fast asleep. I remember waking up and one of the cleaners was there with a mop because this puddle had dripped off me, the great big puddle of water. She was scared somebody was going to slip over on her. She was trying not to wake me up. It was the funniest. I'm thinking, oh god, it's that life choice thing.
Yeah.
What am I doing? It was. You felt alive. Honestly,
Yeah.
that experience, that you feel alive. Yeah, brilliant.
Do you know one thing I always that I was always just slightly off topic, but slightly not. I was always absolutely petrified of the dentist, and I mean absolutely petrified of the dentist. And I remember I went there, and I'd not been for like five or so years. So I sat down thinking, "Oh my god, this is going to be horrific." Anyway, I got told I needed a couple of fillings. I'm thinking, "Oh no!" So I had to come back for my fillings. I remember sitting there thinking, "What can I use? What in my mind can I use to take myself away from where I am right now?" And at the time, I had one of the original Yamaha R1s, and I closed my eyes. I put some earplugs in, with a bit of music on. Thought that way I can't hear them talking. All I can hear is the drilling, but we'll go past that. And I thought, do you know what? I need to take the rear wheel off my R1, and that's what I pictured in my head. I put it on the paddock stand, took the nut off, took the wheel off, and that for the full 30 minutes. That's what I did. I was like, bit by bit. Yeah, I serviced my bike in my head, and afterwards I almost fell asleep. And I remember coming round, and she's like, "Oh, you were all right then?" I was like, "I think I was completely elsewhere." I was in my garage sorting my bike out.
It's when you get home and your bike needs a full service. I've already done that.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I think one thing is that you don't have to be in crisis to kind of get involved with you guys. So why is early support and a simple connection so important? I think that's probably one of the things.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, we talked about the advanced roads. A lot of the IAM and the Roscoe stuff.
Yeah,
So there's a certain demographic for the people that we tend to do presentations at there, and they tend to be an older, sort of more middle class, sort of white British sort of group.
yeah,
I don't know whether they like me sort of labeling it like that, but in my experience of doing presentations, it is sort of an older demographic,
yeah,
and it is predominantly men. One of the things that you realise, I remember doing the Birmingham Advanced Motorcycle group and having to go back out to my bike to pick some leaflets up. When I looked around, I think there was 3 Aston Martins. There was like Range Rover Sports. I was sort of thinking there's a lot of money in this room.
yeah,
And when you looked at the group, you wouldn't imagine that they would have a lot of mental health issues. But the thing with poor mental health, it does not discriminate. It doesn't matter how much money you've got, how wealthy and how good your life is, things can turn on a sixpence. So we're sort of saying that, if you've had a successful career and then you go into retirement and that buzz of running a company or has just been taken away from you, that can trigger, sort of some loneliness. It can trigger you're not around that buzz anymore. If
yeah,
you lose somebody to bereavement, the older you get, the more people you're going to lose in your life. It's
hmm,
fact.
yeah,
You stay alive, people around you will not stay alive, and you're dealing with bereavement all of a sudden. But you're also getting old, and your body starts failing, and things are not working like they. So no matter how wealthy you are, you can't change these things. They just happened.
yeah,
And what we sort of find is that when things start compounding on top of, you might deal with a retirement and then a bereavement
yeah,
or, a relationship problem or some financial struggle, they start to compound and spin.
yeah,
So you start spinning all sorts of mental health plates. And then you suddenly realize I'm not coping with this. And the more you're not coping, you're being sucked into that vortex and it starts spinning even faster.
yeah,
And what we've got to try and do is put some support in while you're able to spin those plates. And we call it the stress container because eventually your stress container will overflow and it's out of control at that stage.
mm,
So if we can help you by putting a tap into that stress container and give you some coping strategies, which is like opening the tap, it
yeah,
releases that pressure. There's a good chance that you're not going to reach that crisis stage. But as I say, mental health, poor mental health, everybody has mental health. It's either good or bad,
yeah,
and sometimes it's in between. But when it's bad, we've got to try and release the pressure by giving you a few coping strategies.
yeah.
That's what we do, really. We're very good at helping you put a plan in place.
That makes sense.
I mean, I think if people are uncertain, if they're struggling, then really good starting points to join our online peer support group. Now, the difficulty is a lot of older people don't like doing social media, and we use the Facebook private groups function on there. So
Right.
you have to apply to get in there. There's currently, I think, just under 5,000 bikers registered using that group, and we've got 14 people. And I'd say to people, if you don't use Facebook, it's worth setting an email address up so you can just use that group,
Yeah.
because that group runs 24 hours a day. It's run by bikers. It's a very safe space. You won't be laughed at, ignored, or judged on there.
Yeah.
And you can talk. And we actively encourage our members themselves to help if they've got lived experience. So our moderators have got a different platform that they monitor everything on. We get keyword alerts. We've got some strong rules of what you can and can't do. We don't allow private messaging and friend requests. And we don't talk about medication and dosages. But what we do is offer support.
Yeah.
And that's a very anonymous type of support that people can get.
Yeah.
So it's a really good starting point. Go to the website and join the support group.
What's the best way of people contacting you then, the Paul, and the charity, and best ways of getting the help that people may or may not need?
So the best way for people to contact us is probably through the website. So go to the website, mhmotorbike.com, and you'll see there's lots of buttons on there where you can find out more about mental health first aid. You can join our online peer support group, or you can get useful resources and advice. We always recommend, people looking, if you're dealing with mental health, there's always really useful apps like the Hub of Hope and Stay Alive. They're probably worth having on your phone. I'd really recommend people downloading that if they're doing any sort of mental health support. Because what the Hub of Hope does is brilliant. You can log on to it, you can put your postcode in there, you can tell it what sort of issues you need help with, so it might be depression or anxiety, and it will find you local charities and support services on your doorstep, as well as national services. So we work in partnership with the Hub of Hope, and we love that organisation. They are so good. So, and the Stay Alive app is also a very good one to have on your phones. So go to the website, www.mhmotorbike.com, and yeah, that's first port of call.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for joining us and talking about some really, really critical things, and things that, to be fair, us blokes don't normally talk too much about anyway. But no, it's been great to have you on. Thank you so much. I'll put all the links on this description for everyone to kind of come and see your website and help out if they can, or grab some support if they need it as well. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us.
Been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for talking to us.
Right. Thank you, and hopefully we'll have to get you back on again in the future.
Yeah, when you've done your mental health first aid training, we'll do a recap.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. Cheers, man. Bye. That was Paul from Mental Health Motorbike. Thank you very much again, Paul, for joining us, taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us. If anything you heard in this episode resonated with you, or you think it could help someone you know, please check out the links in the description and reach out to Paul and the team. And remember, you don't have to be in crisis to get support, and you don't have to deal with things on your own. Motorbikes, there is a real community out there, and that's what we need to be tapping into to help each other out. Riding can be an incredibly powerful for our mental health, but it's just as important to ride with the right mindset and not go out there and riding when you shouldn't be doing. If you find this episode useful, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes on Talks and Tales. We've got more conversations coming up that focus on real riders, real stories, and the things that matter when you live life on two wheels. So until next time, keep your shiny side up, guys. Take it easy.